Well, hello. This is my production management journey reflective vlog, obviously by Samuel Dewdney. Hello. Let's get started with it. So, what I expected from the module at the start of the year. Well, there would be tips and tricks on how to get into the industry. Well, I was wrong. I thought there would be some shortcuts and also just some easy route of getting into the industry, even though it's not easy or no shortcuts whatsoever. But yeah, I also thought it'd be all about admin stuff. Well, I was also wrong there too. But it is much more than that. Like, you've got to think about every little bit of detail, and it's not all just about filling in forms or creating a risk assessment or creating a schedule. There are some parts where you have to book a taxi, book dinners, make dinners. Well, not make dinners, but book dinners. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. And I also thought this module would be easy and it wouldn't take long to do. Well, I was completely wrong there. This module is very hard, and it does take a long time, but it is all worth it in the end, as I really enjoyed it and I really loved it. So yeah, yeah. There will be tips on how to get paperwork done quicker. Well, I assumed completely wrong. There is no tips on how to get paperwork done quicker. And that was an absolute fluke from me. Paperwork will take however long it takes. So yeah. And I also thought it would be boring as all the paperwork is filling out forms. Well, it's not now, as I've said. You also got to book taxis. You've also got to book hotel rooms. You've also got to work out how much money you're spending. You've got to do all of that stuff, every single bit. So it's not all about paperwork. And if I'm being honest, I do feel like being a production manager is basically being an unsung hero. Without production managers, TV, film, and the digital space would never get done at all. So, yeah, on to the next slide. The key points about Albert which have stuck in my brain. Well, it's essential to have a sustainable production. What I mean by that is basically by making it carbon friendly, so you're saving the planet, because we don't want to kill off all the animals. We don't want to, make climate change any worse. We don't even want to hit the doomsday clock either. That would be bad, as we'd probably all die with flash flooding and heat strokes, and it just getting warmer and warmer and warmer to the point where ice caps have melted. The Arctic's gone, the polar bears will be dead and they'll be extinct, and so will the penguins, and that would be very bad. So yeah, and it's also important to have no plastic on set or in the production office whatsoever. Basically, what I mean by that is we don't want to kill any sea life off. They're already precious. We don't want to kill the planet. We don't want that single-use plastic to go into the sea, and for a Nemo and a Dory to get stuck in it, because that would be very sad times. And yeah, it wouldn't be great. And you technically, essentially, killed an animal, which isn't nice as well by doing that. So yeah, and of course, when on the floor in a studio or even out on location, always use LEDs. No tungsten bulbs, no dado lights, none of them. So yeah, because they emit bad emissions into the atmosphere. Obviously, the more emissions you allow, then yeah, the more damage doing to the planet, and then ultimately you just killed the planet off. So that's bad. So Mick and your camera and lighting stuff, I'm sorry, lad, but your tungsten bulbs are bad. Not using them, never again. That is not how we should treat the planet at all. And when you do something which is carbon neutral, you feel good about yourself because you feel like you're essentially trying to save the planet and you've done really good in life and just feel like that. You just feel great. And yeah, you can just move on and you're a good citizen as well. And you're also committing to help save the planet. Next slide, please. My review on Seaspiracy. Well, it's very insightful. It was also a bit heartbreaking at times, and it's like Blackfish. If you haven't seen Blackfish, it's a documentary about poaching dolphins. I got recommended it to me a few years back. It was very upsetting. It's a very emotional film. I do recommend if you haven't seen it. And it does remind me a lot like that. And yeah, it's very good documentary, and it's very inspiring because it makes you want to help out to stop killing the dolphins and whatnot. But yeah. Well, what skills make a good production manager? Well, organization is key. You've got to be very organized in telly if you want to be a production manager. As well as you've also got to be very punctual, because if you're not punctual, well then you're not potentially going to be you're not going to be a good production manager or above or below. So yeah, and obviously if you're ever doing risk assessments, you have to, if you overthink the best things, this is one thing I've learned in production management. If you overthink the risk assessment and if you think what is the worst thing that can happen and work your way down from there, you'll get a good completed risk assessment with every single risk, well, not every single, but the majority of risks filled out. So obviously there is going to be a million reasons of what could happen. For example, I don't know, there could be a bomb, for example, on set, and you've got a risk assessment that, and you've got talent in, and yeah, you've got to get everybody out safely, and yeah, or if somebody tragically dies, you've got to think about that as well. But yeah, and you've also got to be very communicated with the crew and with talent, so you've got to be very organized. So well, that based saying that is, if they have a question, it's about what the paper that you did, for example, or the taxi, for example, you need to know. They need to know you need to know when it's coming, what's happening, which one is booked for, where you're going, etc., etc. But yeah, as well as financial skills, because you need to be good with money, and you don't want to go over budget, you don't want to go under budget. So yeah, you obviously got to have problem solving skills. So if plan A don't work, you're going to go to plan B and C and D and all the way down to plan Z. So yeah, next slide, please. My review on Helen Houston. Well, she was great. It was a great talk. It was really insightful. It was fascinating. And yeah, her talk about Jason Derulo and the gym was pretty amusing, to be fair, to be honest. And yeah, and working on Project Icon seemed like a massive, big production to work on, and ultimately could have been very big. Well, it was very big. So yeah, and very inspiring, and she was great. Anyways, well, thank you so much for a great module. It was so fun, and yeah, and you have officially converted me to be a production manager. So yeah, I wish you well in life. I'm gonna miss you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and this has been Samuel Dudney's production manager journey. Over and out.